Okay, good evening. Just thought I'd get started a bit early. Just make sure everything's all right. Not quite sure how good that focus is. Ah, there we go. That's not too bad. Hope you appreciate this is my first live stream, so it could be a bit dodgy. The focus could be a bit dodgy. We'll just have to wait and see. I may be sat here all night just speaking to myself. It's a distinct possibility. Stranger things have happened. In fact, they do most of the time I'm at home. So why should it be any different now? Just trying to get some lighting sorted out that isn't too bright, but unfortunately that isn't really working at the moment. So yeah, you're all going to see the positives and negatives of trying to live stream. If you haven't done it before like me, well, that makes it a bit less harsh, doesn't it? It's all smoke and mirrors, you know, all smoke and mirrors, as you can see by my strange lights coming in at strange angles. So, we've got one person watching. Amazing. Well, that's a first for me. I've actually got someone watching the stream. Fantastic. That's good to know. I'll just repeat what I've just said to myself. I'm just trying to get the lighting sorted out so we've got a decent picture without it being too bright. You can say something in the chat if you can't hear me, or if the picture's too fuzzy. I've not got the best camera in the world, so I'm just kind of doing what I can just to get this out here. I'll try and sort things out so it's a bit better. Just let me. So yeah, I have one watcher. Woohoo! So it is now 7:30 on the 26th of the 4th of 2018. Little bit of a backstory. Caleb, thanks very much. Wonderful. Yeah, it's good of you. Glad you found me. Hope the picture's not too bad. I know it's fairly shabby, but it is a fairly basic setup. So yeah, the basic story, I ordered this Ender 3, the same as many of you did, from AliExpress on their pre-order system, and I paid, with the fact I paid by PayPal, so they put an extra £4, I think, on £4 UK on paying by PayPal, which meant I've paid £104 for this. So I didn't think that was too bad, 104 quid. Well, isn't too bad, it was brilliant. And then I went through the same rigmarole that everybody else has been through, which is basically that it has taken forever for them to ship it. But once they shipped it, as you can see, it came via DHL. When it got to the UK, it went through from DHL to UK Parcels, which is part of the DHL group. Got here really quickly once it was in this country. In fact, it was within 12 hours of it getting into this country, I had it. So that was brilliant. One thing I have noticed, I'll just pick it up, don't know that you can hear this. It rattles. A little bit concerned about that. Don't know what I'm going to find when I open it, but it is completely sealed. I haven't touched it at all. And what I want to do this evening, unless I get carried away, I am not going to do a build. All I'm actually doing this evening is an unbox and look at how it comes in the box, and we're going to look at the component parts. And if there's anything any of you want to look at, in specifically, if yours hasn't turned up yet and you want to look at something specifically or how something goes together, let me know in the chat. I'm reading the comments, so I'll know, you know, what you're asking, and then if I can sort it out for you so you know before yours turns up, we'll do. So without further ado, I'll put my knife in the box and probably ruin the printer. Hopefully not. Now, if I'm speaking too quickly, or if I'm waffling, or if you can't hear me, or if you can't see anything, type it into the chat. I promise to read it, and I'll do my best to sort it out. Like I said in my somewhat blathery introduction, This is my first ever live stream, so it is all a bit of a new thing to me. But I just wanted to share this with you guys so you can see what's going on. When I finish the stream, if you haven't looked at any of my content before, by all means, please do. Have a look, see what you think. If you like my channel, you like what I do, you know, subscribe, hit the like button, whatever. If you don't like it, tell me why you don't like it, and I'll do my best to improve things. And the first thing I'm going to do is move this light, because you are not getting enough light there, are you? I could do with that being... you see, this is the problem. It's all a bit dark. Sound is good. Thank you, Team Manyork. I don't know if that's Team Anyork or T Manyork, but anyway, as long as the sound is all right. I'm sorry about the visuals. I know they're not brilliant, but, you know, I could only get better. That's what they used to say to me at school. Right, so, as you can see, the first thing you notice is, or you can't see because you can't see it, that is the connection for the heated bed, and they've cut a little square out there because that sits proud of the surface, so they've cut a little square out of this foam. So we take the foam off, and there we have it. That's what comes in the box. So, on the very top are the instructions that look like that. Basically, from what other people have said on the build, they're quite easy to read, quite simple instructions. If anything, maybe a little too simple and don't go into enough detail, but I personally think rather that than something that's so complicated and convoluted that you've no idea what you're doing. I am really struggling with this light, aren't I? I do apologise. Let me just try. I've got one up here, and if I can bring that down a little. Is that a bit better, everyone? Or the two of you? Oh, there's five of you. My goodness, never thought that would happen. Right, so top of the box. That is the heat bed, which is connected, so I'm not going to pull that out. So we have got our bag, which contains side cutters. There appears to be some cable ties, all the bolts, tools, Allen keys, everything appears to be in that pack there. So that's good. A UK power plug. Most important thing, fantastic. They've got a UK one. So they've obviously listened to who I am. It does appear to be fused. It says on there it's a 5 amp fused 13 amp plug, so that makes sense. So that's good. No panic there then. Team and York, better, good. I'm glad it's a bit better. I'm sorry, like I say, I'm sorry it isn't up to standards of some people that we all know and love, but I am who I am. Little 38mm scraper. That's actually quite sharp, is that? I'm quite glad they put that really hefty plastic bag over it to save my fingers, but yeah, it's quite a sharp little spatula, that. What else have we got? Right. So in this here bag, everything seems to be quite well labelled. There seems to be an awful lot of stuff labelled up quite nicely. Even says Ender 3 on it. You probably won't be able to read that in any way, shape or form, but that does say Ender 3, I promise you. So yeah, things appear to be labelled quite nicely. They're packaged quite well. We've got the bags basically are nicely laid out. Loads of filament. What on earth are you supposed to print with that much filament? I don't get it. I really don't get it. You've got enough filament there. If you're lucky, you could print, I don't know, maybe half a benchy if you were lucky. It's not good. Acupuncture needle for your clogs, getting your clogs out. We all like getting those, don't we? Oh yeah. Oh, and look, I've got another power lead. I think that's probably the European one. Anybody want a power lead? Yeah, leave a message in the description if that fits your electrical system. Because it certainly doesn't fit mine. Right, so we get into the actual stuff in the box. There's no really easy way of getting this out of here. Right, so The rod comes in a little sort of rubbery plastic sleeve, which isn't actually big enough for the rod, so it sticks out both ends. It looks like it's a magic wand. Ah, bing! No, it's not built in. That is oiled. I'm getting grease on my fingers, so that rod there has been oiled up. So that's quite good. It's got a bit of grease on it. Nothing wrong with a bit of grease. These extrusions, it's the usual sort of cellophane stuff on them. Nothing too exciting. They've got the tapped ends for putting the screws into. I'll just see if I can get you a... Hang on, I might need to do a bit of lighting work. There we go, look, that's what the extrusions look like. And they are threaded down the middle. So that could save a bit of bother. Hopefully they're threaded correctly and not a problem later. Well, we're all guessing that that is part of the reel for the filament. It's part of the filament holder. Can't think of it being anything else. You watch, it will be something else. Other two pieces of extrusion. Some people said they've seen signs of their extrusions being scratched. So what I'll actually do with this one is I'll take this one out of here and we'll have a proper look. There's no real signs of any marks of it having been put together or anything like that. It all seems fairly, well, it is clean. I mean, it's clean, it's unscratched, it's not knocked or dented. I mean, the packaging isn't the thickest in the world, but it seems to have done its job so far. I'm sure that's famous last words, and I'm now going to pull something out in pieces. Next piece, so we all know what that is, don't we? Bearings seem nice and smooth on that. No problems with it being bent or out of shape. That's all nice, straightforward. No sticking points on the bearings, no rough parts on those. So that's a decent enough quality. Anybody who's watched my channel before know I've got a CR10, so I know what Creality quality is. I started life with an A-net A8, like a lot of us have done. So it was a really big step for me to go from an A-net A8 to go to a Creality machine. It was a massive jump forward, as I'm sure it is with anybody else that's done it. I couldn't believe the fact it was a lot quicker to put together and the quality of the materials. And they've certainly not got any worse. That, of course, is your control board. Now, already on Thingiverse, people have designed and printed a back cover for this, because at the moment, when that sits on your machine, that's all open. So people have already printed back covers. These, I will be doing one of those. I will be printing one out and fitting it, and I will fit it before I put the machine together, I think. That way I'm not prattling about. So I'll get one of those printed first. I'll probably use the Prusa i3 Mark III, which you can't see, it's behind me. It normally sits on the table here. So I've had to take it off and put it to one side so I can actually look at this. Quite where I'm going to put this printer, I'm not actually sure yet, because I haven't actually got room for it. Do I move the CR10? I don't know. Anyway, that's for another day, because at the moment the CR10 is set up with my laser, which is something I'm going to discuss in another video. I've done a laser adaptation for it for burning lumps out of wood. Just let me click over here and quickly grab that. That's just a thing I was doing. Is that in reverse to you guys? Have I got my camera in reverse? That could be interesting. If it is, I'm terribly sorry. But yeah, just putting a laser adapter on it and been prattling about with that over the last couple of days. Works quite well. But I digress. Back to what we're here for. One stepper motor. It tells me, it doesn't tell me anything. It doesn't even tell me which axis it is, but we all know which axis it's for, don't we? Because it's got that on it. So we all know where that's going to go. So that, yeah, again, I know somebody that turned up and some of his pins were bent on there. My pins are all fine. There's no issues with those. What else can I get out of the box before I go for the big lump? Right, what have we got here? Right. So yeah, again, that all seems in good condition, all unscratched. Oh no, light Matthew. There we go. That all seems in good condition. No marks, no dents, no scratches. Nice, easy lump. Not too much to build at this stage. You know, it's all sort of, it's semi-assembled. It's 9/10 an assembled machine. You're not going to have to do a lot with this to get a good working machine going on here. It's still got the same issue that Creality seems to have not thought about. Let me get that count. Oh, sorry. Right, you can see where the filament goes in, and you can see the brass mounting there for where the screw thread goes through and how close it is. And we all know that that can cause issues with the filament catching on the threaded rod. And, you know, can either chew through the filament or can cause jamming issues or stuff like that. There are several little fixes out there on the internet. It would be just a nice idea if Creality did it so we didn't have to. But they haven't. So, you know, again, we'll have to look at that and making that a little bit safer, a little bit less likely to chew things up. So yeah, that's good. Where are we at now then? We all know what that's for. We've all seen that before. Again, that's going to be too short for some reels of filament that won't fit between there and there. But again, there are umpteen things out there that have already been designed for the CR10, and we know that they're going to work with these. So a lot of the modifications that the CR10 has seen over the years. Oh, it was the correct way. Thank you, Team New York. That just means that it's reversed on my screen and it's the right way around on your screen. That's cool. That's good to know for later. So we're down to pretty much the biggest lump. So you see, this is all actually connected together. Now we might do a bit of dissecting later if anybody's interested. So we've got the hotbed, and that's actually quite smooth running on there. That's nicely done. And that is connected. That is all screwed together. I will check that all these screws are tightened up properly when I put it together properly. But it seems to run quite smoothly. There doesn't seem to be any issues with any sticking points. It actually looks really nice. I've got to say, oh, sorry, let me do the light again for you. Careful, stepper going to sail. I do hope it won't. Let's not go down that route, Timo. Let's just try and, so yeah, light. No, it's not really going to work for you guys, is it? This is fairly terrible, isn't it? Got to be said. But yeah, I'm sorry, this lighting is absolutely awful. Just bear with me 2 ticks, don't go anywhere. In fact, if you want to go make a cup of tea, or even make me a cup of tea, that would be lovely. I'm just going to attempt something now. You're not going to want to know what I'm doing at the moment, but don't worry about it. Right, so that's the main body of it, all done, all wired up, all bolted together, all there, all in one piece. So that's nice. That means if you're a first-time builder of a 3D printer, you haven't got major issues of having to try and put the damn thing together from the sort of kits that you got when you got the A8, which was just a box of bits. I mean, I don't know about you guys. Did any of you guys actually have an A8, or have you still got one? Any of you 4 that are watching? Nobody else is going to tell me. But if you did, you will remember the peeling off of the paper off the acrylic. That probably took almost as long as building the machine. It really did. It was an absolute nightmare. But to come to something like this, where it's all sort of pretty much pre-built for you, is fantastic. It really does mean that people getting into the 3D printing world, they can spend their energies on actually printing, if that's what they want to do, rather than building. I mean, okay, hoping, I think in some ways, actually building a machine from scratch pieces was good for your learning curve because you understood how everything worked before you actually got to print with it. But I think these days people just want to bang it together, screw it together, plug it in and get printing, because this is what it's all about. It's not about building a machine. It's about making brilliant things out of, well, recycled vegetables, for want of a better word. Let me just put this light. I'm determined to get this lighting a bit better for you guys. I'm really sorry. As you can see, I'm using my work lights from my day job, or one of my day jobs, which are just causing... Right, I've now got that hanging off the back of a chair, which means I've got to move around here a bit more. But there we go. That kind of works. Right. So, oh, now, extruder is actually connected on as well. And it's pretty much exactly the same extruder as we had on the CR10. The fan is slightly different. You can't see that, but the fan is slightly different. I have a fan on my CR10. Whether I will bother to change the fan on this or not, I don't know. It does depend on how well it prints. I'm a firm believer in, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, because sometimes you can end up causing more issues by changing the fan and the fan duct than you actually solve. So I'll just move this out of the way for a minute. Oh, God, it's a long way down when you're as old as me. So the last thing in the box is the power supply. Now, 3D printed sleeve for the bottom. Already got the switch in it, which is lovely. Just a simple 2-pin plug to connect to your machine, which can only go one way. That's brilliant. It is set at the moment. Let me see if I can get you in on this to see. It is set at the moment for, you can't see that, but it is set for 240 volts. So they've actually set it for the right power for the country I'm in. But there is a dent in it. You can see it, but there I have a dent in my power supply. Now that can only be because it was laid like that in the box, and the main body of the printer was sat straight on top of it. So something has caused a bit of a dink there. Now, hopefully because it's in the top of the box, that's not going to be an issue. But we've all seen it as I've unpacked it. So if I do have any issues, AliExpress, you can watch my video and you can see that I've not dropped that and it's got a dent in it. Hopefully it's a cosmetic thing. It won't cause an issue at all. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all there is in the box, guys. There's no chocolate. There's no sweeties. You know, you have to go to Joseph Pusher and pay an arm and a leg for a wonderful machine. But that's the only way you're going to get some Haribo, because I'm afraid China hasn't cottoned on to that one yet. So if nothing else in the box, let's just have a little check in the bottom to make sure. No, that's absolutely it. Big old bit of foam. So what we'll do is now we'll move that out of the way. We'll chuck that to one side. That's somewhat overexposed lighting on my desk. Oh, now you see, this is the problem, is that my beer's got into shot. Now that's a little embarrassing, because that was supposed to be hidden out the way for me to have a little drinky off when nobody was listening or looking, because I wasn't expecting anybody to actually watch this stream. I was expecting to be here on my own. And it's 24 minutes in, and I've still got 4 people watching. So that's fantastic. Can anybody tell me, is it lagging at all? Is there any issue with the quality going up and down? I know the quality isn't brilliant anyway. I don't even know what I'm streaming in, whether it's 720p or 2p or 5p. I haven't the foggiest. But if there are any problems with audio dropping out or video stuttering or anything, let me know. I probably won't be able to do a lot about it, because at the moment I'm on mobile internet. This is actually a router I have with the SIM card from 3 out of my phone. And that's plugged into it, and that is what I'm having to use for internet at the moment. And it's fine. Fantastic. Almost as fine as my product placement moment here, this is called Wold Gold by a brewer called Wold Top, which is about 15 miles away from me. Yorkshire beer, very, very nice. And no live build, or live unboxing, should I say, would be complete without something to drink. So, good evening, Paul. Thanks very much for that. Appreciate that, mate. Glad it's all good. So, we're going to lay it all back out on here again. Now, it's time to ask you the questions. Is there anything specifically you would like a closer look at? Is there anything you would like me to take apart? Would you like me to take the top off the power supply and have a look inside that and see what that looks like? Would you like a closer look at these extrusions and see how they are? Would you like me to take the top off the control box and see what that looks like? We're open to pretty much anything within reason. So, yeah, if there's anything you want, like I say, you want a closer look at, you want me to ask me questions about so I can look at and give you an idea of what you're going to get or what you've already got. I mean, some of you might already have got. The reviews I've seen, the unboxings I've seen, the builds I've seen and watched, this is going to be a really good machine. I know some people have had a few tiny issues with the build. I'm going to take my time over the build. I'm going to check everything as I put it together and make sure that everything's tight. You know, the factory stuff that's been tightened at the factory, I'll double check all that and make sure nothing's loose there. But Creality, in fairness to them, they do make good machines. And now they're GPL compliant after a little bit of work. That's even better. Now I know we haven't got the source code for this machine yet, but we will have. And when we do have, and people, those wonderful people at Marlin, and Timothy Hoogland, of course, because he's done more than enough to help us all out. When we get that all sorted and we have the power resume function available on Marlin firmware, I will then upgrade to the unified firmware, and I will then flash Marlin on here, because I went out, when would it have been? Oh, it was only a few days ago. Went onto Amazon and I've bought myself, there we go, leveling sensor. Now, this is exactly the same as the one I have on my CR10. I made sure of it, got the number off it, and I know it directly fits onto the board of the CR10. I've literally got to wire those 3 wires into a plug, and I can plug straight into the CR10 with it, and it will work. So I know, running Marlin, of course, so I know if I run the Marlin firmware, I can do my self-leveling, but I don't want to lose the power resume function. So until Marlin has the power resume function activated, I will stick with the stock firmware, because that way the power resume will work. It's more important to me to make sure the power resume works than it is to have auto bed leveling. Bed leveling isn't rocket science once you've got your head around it. Yeah. So that's my plan. Now hang on, I see a question. T-Man York, it says, what's the build plate made of and what's the surface like? Hey Peter, now then mate, good to see you up here. Come to watch the amateur at work. The build plate, it's aluminium. The surface on it is, well, it's just a sticker over the top. And how to describe the surface? It's like a non-stick pan. Does that make sense? It's sort of slightly crinkly sort of finish to it. It's not a smooth finish. There are sort of dimples and undulations in it. But it's aluminium. It's fairly thin. I would say it was probably about the same thickness as the CR10 one. In fact, I'm fairly certain it'll be made out of exactly the same stuff as the CR10 stuff. But I'm going to try using that bed before I go down the road of sticking a mirror on it. Got a mirror on the CR10. I went down the route of the IKEA mirror, and it's worked really well for me. I know it doesn't work for everybody, but it's worked really well for me. But I'm going to try using this, see how this works out. Because again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And until I've tried it, you know, I might find it's perfectly good. One thing I did want to check, is it like the build tack on top? It is, but am I right in thinking that build tack is smooth, a smooth finish? Pete, I could be wrong, but I thought build tack was a smooth finish. This is, it's slightly scratchy. Let me see if I can get it a bit nearer the camera, because I know you can't wait till yours turns up, Pete, and I bet you've ordered more than one, haven't you? Because you're not going to be daft enough just to order one. Right, can you see that? The reflection there, look, shows you that it's sort of like a mottled, so it's not a smooth surface as such. So maybe that would help with adhesion rather than it being ultimately smooth. One thing I wanted to check, going back to me, was these knobs on the bottom. Now, people have said that the thread, well, we all know the trouble that you have. The bolt spins underneath because it's not tightened down to the bed. But these are actually working pretty well. They are tightening and loosening, and the threaded bolt is not spinning around. So I know other people have suggested putting nuts on and one thing or another, but I would say at the moment that is working fine. I haven't got an issue with those. I haven't got an issue with those at all. I know on my CR10, I actually dropped a little bit of, I don't know whether it was Gorilla Glue or Super Glue, into the holes when I put the bolts in. And that way, they sort of, it was like a lock nut, I suppose, really, but it glued the top of the bolts in place, which then meant when I turned the wheels underneath, when I printed the bigger wheels out, it worked really well. Hang on, another thing from Pete there. I've never had a proper build tack, got some of the E10 and it was bumpy-ish. Yeah, bumpy-ish, that sounds like a good description, Pete. It comes with a bed adjustment knobs. It does. Again, this is the thing I like about Creality. They've actually, some would say stolen, but I say they've taken on board the mods that we all use that have worked. It's like this strengthening part here. You know, we all know that this was done by a guy and stuck on Thingiverse, and actually Creality reached out to this guy and said, can we use it? And they sent it out with their later editions of the CR10. And yeah, that strain relief bracket, that was somebody on Thingiverse. These wheel knobs, many people did these. These are molded plastic, injection molded, they're not printed, and they actually have written on them down and up and arrows, so you even know which way to turn it. So that's, again, they're listening. You know, I love the idea of a company that take on board what people have said and the modifications people have made, and have put them to good use, because clearly it's improving the machines. Clearly it's making them more usable, and if they're more usable, you know, people are more likely to buy them, aren't they? So that's all good. Would you go for solid mounts when you go with the ABL? I didn't do with the CR10. And I don't know why. I just didn't. I didn't find that the bed moved enough that I needed to sort of lock it down with a solid mount. So I didn't bother. I mean, basically, it's got the same springs under it. It's not the yellow springs. It was the original rounded springs, which are the same as these. I know that they went later to those flatter orange springs. Let me see if I can get this in focus for you. Hang on, move me work light again. Let's see if I can get it. God, you know, I am so dodgy, aren't I? You know, you see the likes of Joel and Joe and Maker's Muse and all their clever filming angles, and you know, they've got their own cameramen, and I've got 2 work lights and a Logitech quick cam thing, and making a right mess of it. So the answer to your question is no. I don't think I will. If it becomes an issue that these bolts undo themselves, well, then I might think about it. But at the moment, I'm not going to bother. Again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know. I have noticed there is a tiny weeny bit. I don't know whether you'll actually see this. There is a tiny weeny little bit of sideways wobble in that bed. Only a tiny weeny little bit of play. It probably means that the nuts on the bottom, now are they concentric or are they eccentric? I can never remember. I would say concentric, but I'll probably be wrong. Those nuts might need turning ever so slightly to tighten that up. But I mean, it's not a massive amount of play. I mean, in fairness, the bed's only going to go backwards and forwards. So I wouldn't call that too much of an issue. Control box. We just have a little read. Now, I've seen other people's videos on this. Now, there's one gentleman in particular who's mentioned the fact, let me get this light around here while I talk to you about this. You can see, or you probably can't see there, the USB port and the SD slot are at the bottom right-hand side, so towards the center of the printer, and the fan is on the top. Now, the issue that could come from that is that if something drops off the top of the bed and drops into the fan, that could knacker the fan up. You know, if you've done a wipe across the front of the bed before printing. Let me just try this light somewhere else, because I don't know about you, but it's bugging me. Oh, 7 people watching. That's just getting better every minute. I really appreciate this, guys. You don't know how much I appreciate it. I honestly thought, sat eating my tea tonight, I honestly thought I am going to be talking to myself. I honestly really did. So the fact that you guys have tuned in, even if you only stay for 5 minutes and then beggar off, I still appreciate it. Anyway, going back to what this guy said, if you're doing a wipe across the edge of the bed here and it drops out and it drops into the fan, it could stall the fan, it could chew the fan up, and maybe that's not the best place for it. Well, I will guarantee you, with the amount of clearance you've got under there, before too long, I expect to see on Thingiverse a little cowl of some description, which will either vent that fan out of the front or out of the side or something. I know somebody's going to come up with one, just so it stops that issue. As for the SD card and the USB spot being at the front and at the bottom, not a massive issue to me. It doesn't bother me. I mean, people were talking about actually turning it upside down. So the SD card slot and the USB slot would then be up here at the top. So it's further away from the middle of the build plate, and it's also easier to get to with your thumb, because if it's right down there and you. But I'm not gonna call that as an issue. Again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I know I've said that a lot, and I've really got to come up with something else, because otherwise people are going to be putting it in the comments and God knows what else. But overall build quality is looking really good. It doesn't look like it's been assembled and tested. I'll be honest with you, there's no obvious signs of it being assembled and tested in any way, shape or form. It just looks like it's been built and shipped. And hopefully I'm not going to have any problems. I wouldn't want to have any problems. Apart from this sticky sheet, which isn't on completely square. So I obviously had somebody who was slightly boz-eyed when they put that on, because it's slightly off to one side there. But it's not a big issue, is it? More beer. So we've gone through the built-up material. We've gone through whether I would go for the solid mounts when I put the ABL on. No. If it becomes an issue, I might consider it, but I don't see these spinning loose and dropping off. Now, was that my A-net that did that? It was my A-net that did that. If I remember rightly, my A-net had like little wing nuts, chrome wing nuts on them. And I was printing something and the vibration from the steppers or whatever it was, one of my wing nuts just slowly undid itself like that while it was printing, and I wasn't watching. I was probably watching something else on YouTube or whatever. And I heard this tinkle, and then I heard the print head scrape across the build plate and the work I'd been printing fall off the back. And it had unwound itself, which was really wonderful, really helpful. But I haven't had that problem with Creality machines. So hopefully it will stay where I put it. And if it stays where I put it, I'm not going to bother with solid mounts. So, enough said about that. Should I start putting it together? No, I shan't. One thing I wanted to check, because something else I had noticed on a few videos was when people were talking about it and they were moving it about, they built it all up and they were talking about this and they were talking about that. It didn't look particularly flat. It looked as if it was wobbling. Now, whether that's because they've got a pair of side cutters jammed underneath it in one corner because they were on the work table or what, I don't know. But I have noticed it on more than one video. So what I would like to do before we go any further and do anything else is actually set it flat on my table and see if we have any wobbles, because that would be the first thing I'll need to sort out. That dent in that power supply though, you know, there had to be something, didn't there? So, get all these cables down, make sure they're all out of the way, put that on my flat surface. Now you see, look, you see that? So, that tells me that something isn't completely square. I'm fairly certain this table is completely flat because nothing else wobbles on it. But there is on that an ever so slight, I've cured it. Look whether you notice what I did. I had my finger in that corner, I put my finger in that corner and pushed them both together like that. And now I appear to have got rid of the wobble. So that tells me that those little old screws that are holding these extrusions together aren't perfectly tight. Now, I'm not going to over tighten them because we all know the trouble that causes when you strip these things. Excuse me, but clearly there is a bit of play in this because that was wobbling when I first put it down. And now, since I did that, that's now sitting totally flat. Is the XT60 jammed underneath? The XT60 jammed underneath. Just let me check. No, absolutely nothing jammed underneath. Everything is fine. There's a gap. The feet, they've put these little feet. I hope you can still hear me. No, I'm calling about on the floor. Hello, world. You see, you don't get Joel Telling doing that, do you? The feet, they've put these little, they're actually sticky-backed rubber feet of about 3 or 4 mil in depth, and they've just stuck them on the bottom of the extrusions in each corner. And they're fairly basic, they're nothing special, but you know what? They do the job. That's quite a rigid little thing now, actually. I'm quite impressed with that. I love the cute little build surface. It's small, it's nice. I don't want to have to cut a mirror down to go on there. I would much prefer it if that works. Don't know whether it's warped or not. I wouldn't like to try and guess. I haven't got a steel rule with me, so I can't check it with a steel rule corner to corner. I tell you what, let me grab a mirror. If I can find a mirror to hand, and I will see if I put a mirror corner to corner and see if I can see any gaps. Just so happens I have one of my happy IKEA mirrors. And we will just put that on there, and you've got to take my word for this because there's no way you're going to be able to see this. That looks to be as near as damn it flat. All I'm doing is I'm relying on the fact that that corner and that corner are touching the bed, and then if there's any discrepancy as we come along here, I'll be able to see it. And I can't see any sign of a warp there. That looks to be as almost as flat as you could hope it could be. I'm fairly pleased with that. There's no obvious, 4mm dinks in the bottom of it anywhere in the middle. So, fingers crossed, we won't have to put anything else on there. Now, what was that I just saw? You've just moved it. Oh, sorry, Pete. No problem. You see, you're just a bit slow, mate. That's all. You'll speed up eventually. You'll get there. Is your power supply set correctly? It is, Richard. Yeah. Out of the box, it sets 240. Well, actually, it's 220, but 240 in the UK. But yes, it switched correctly. I was enthusing when I first opened the box that it came with the UK power lead, and I thought, they've got the red screws on. They've even put the right power lead on. But then I moved something and found they'd also put one of the European multi-language plug things in as well. So, whether they all come with that, and that was chucked in the top, because it was in the top, or whether they all come with both. I would like to believe that they all come with that one, and this one was put in because they know it was shipping to Great Britain. I would like to hope. But yes, power module is set to 240 or 220. It's a 24 volt, 15 amp power supply. It's got a dent in it. I've said that again now, haven't I? Yeah. AliExpress, it's got a dent in it. I had a dent in it when I opened it. Any problems, you'll be seeing my video. But it is what it is. There's a fan in it. That's a step up for some people. They've 3D printed that. It's not the best piece of 3D printing I've ever seen. There's a bit of ghosting on it. I don't know whether they need to check the Cura profiles and try and get them a bit better. But it's going to do the job. It's a lot better than having all those dangling wires sticking out the bottom and you've got to try and wire them in. Tell you what, there is actually only 2 Allen keys holding that on. Shall I take those 2 bolts out and actually see how well we've got this wired up? Because that's the thing when you get these almost assembled stroke pre-assembled kits, is that unless you take absolutely everything to bits, you have no idea how well they've been put together. And just for the sake of looking, I shall get the Allen keys that came with it. You actually get 3, 4, 5 Allen keys, 2 spanners, a little screwdriver, and a pair of side cutters. So every tool you need to put it together, apart from the tool that's putting it together. So, Peter, stop laughing at me. I can ban you. I wouldn't. I'd only have 6 people watching if I banned you. Right, so let's get this off here. I hope this isn't a mistake. If this all goes wrong and something jumps out of here and we can't get it back in, I'll be very upset. But I just want to see what sort of quality this has been done. Because we all know, we've done it ourselves, we've put them in, we think we've done a good job, and we haven't tightened them down properly, or we haven't got all the cable in, and it looks a bit naff. And we've all seen people having trouble with shorts and stuff not working because they haven't got them in the clips properly. So let's have a look how it's done in the factory. I'm kind of guessing that's just going to slot off. It is. Right, come on, Pete. You've done a whole load of crimping and wiring in your days. I'm going to get that in, get that up to the camera, get my light off here. And I am going to put the light on like that and get it up to the camera a bit closer. That focus is awful. Whoever told me to buy one of these. Anyway, I think you can see from that, I personally think, that ain't a bad job. They look to be quite nicely crimped. The insulation on all the cables goes actually into the crimp, so there's no bare wire on show. They're all nicely put and screwed in. It's not a bad job, that. I'm quite impressed with that. Pete, what do you think? Oh, hang on, I can't see. Do you know why I can't see? Because I've got blooming notifications coming up in the bottom corner of my screen, and they're covering you lot talking to me. So just let me... My Mini Factory. New bus designer John F. Kennedy. I'm not really that interested. Oh, and Big Clive's got a new video out. If you don't watch bigclive.com on YouTube, do. He's fantastic. I love that bloke. He makes me laugh all the time. He really does. He's brilliant. He's Big Clive. If you don't subscribe to him, please go and check him out. He's a very funny guy. No, I agree with you, Pete. Looks really good, does that? And as you can see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 spare terminals. I'm not sure if it's going to tell me whether they're positive or negative. It's not. So you would need to crack your multimeter on there so you can tell what they are. Oh, actually, it does. So you've got two positives and 2 negatives free. So those 2 are your negatives and those 2 are your positives. So basically, you've got positive, 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 negative, negative, negative. So they've used the end one of both. So you've got the possibilities there of wiring other things into it, which is always good. You've got the voltage adjust there. Hang on, let me get. Oh, you see, this is just not working, is it? Right, can you see the little orange bit there? That's the voltage adjust. And then next to that, that little green thing is an LED. So I'm guessing that will flicker and flash and go pop when I put it together. But that's what that is. But no, I'm quite well impressed with that. And Pete seems to think it's all right. And if anybody knows about crimping wires, it's Pete. He must spend half his life with either a soldering iron or a pair of crimpers in his hand. If you don't know Pete, it was on the live feed. Can I tell him what you do, Pete? Is that all right? It might end up as a bit of advertising for you. That's why kettles take longer to boil. Yeah. No, you're not wrong, Paul. Bloody kettles. Is that because you're watching it? Yeah. Pete, let me know if I can tell you what... yeah, free advertising. Are you happy with that? Are you happy with me doing a bit of free advertising for you? Do you mind? Pete, I've known for probably a couple of years now because I've bought stuff off him. He has a eBay page and he sells stuff on eBay. And first stuff I bought from him was from my AA. And I'm trying to remember what your eBay page is called, Pete. Now, come on, brain. It'll come to me in a minute. Skynet 3D Mods. Is that right, Pete? Yeah, I'm sure it is. Anyway, I started buying bits and pieces from Pete when I had my AA. And then I got my CR10 and I got my first bed leveling kit from Peter. And it worked an absolute treat. And he's been nothing but a great help to me. Helped me with the firmware side of stuff. It's not all been plain sailing for him. I'm sure he'll agree. He's had some ups and downs with one thing and another that we won't go into today because it's water under the bridge and it's not important. But he's a real nice guy. Unfortunately, he lives in Wales. Now, anybody in the UK that knows Wales, you know, I'm not being racist, but he is Welsh. At least, well, I think he's Welsh. But he's a real nice guy. Like I say, he has that eBay page. And if there's stuff you want, how can I put it? If you don't want to wait for stuff to come from China and it turns up and it's in bits, you can go to Pete and he has stuff in stock. And you know it's going to work. You know that it's going to arrive to you in one piece. It might cost you a few quid more, but you know what you're going to get. If there is an issue with it, he's not going to pretend he doesn't understand you. You know, he's there. His backup is brilliant. He's always helpful. You're a Scouser. God, that's even worse. So you're a Scouser living in Wales. Do you know, there must be a joke about that somewhere. I'll try and think one up before the end of the stream. Anyway, now he's a real nice guy, is Pete. If he's on most of the forums, unless he gets kicked off, but he's on a lot of the forums, bless him. He's always very helpful. He does his best by people. He's certainly always done his best by me. And that isn't because I get stuff out from him or discounted. You're joking, aren't you? There's no chance of him ever giving anything away. But he's got great knowledge. Didn't you have something to do with Marlin as well? Am I right in thinking, Pete? Sheep and stealing things. Yeah, I bet there is. Am I right in thinking you had something to do with helping with the Marlin firmware at one point? I'm sure he did. Early on. Well, he did the Skynet firmware as well, didn't you? That was it. It was Skynet stuff. But anyway, I digress. Nice bloke. Good stuff. If you need anything for your Ender 3, I'm sure he's going to have it plastered all over eBay. And it's Skynet 3D mods on eBay. He'll have all sorts of bits and pieces on there for you. We'll probably start doing the bed leveling kits. Like I said, this time I'm going to run the risk and try and do it myself. If you're not, up to speed with doing that kind of thing, and you don't want to risk it yourself, pay a few quid more, get one of Pete's kits. You know it's going to work, and if it doesn't work, he's there to back you up. He's there to help you, as long as you're not trying to diddle him. And a great bloke, and he's even bothered to spend some time here talking to me. Oh, what's he put there now? Not Marlin. I did the Skynet 3D release for the ANET originally. There, you see. I knew it was something like that, and I had that on my ANET. And I tell you something else I bought from you, Pete, which you probably won't remember. There was like it was when all the hassle was coming about the ANETs setting lights to people's houses, which I know they're still doing now 3 years later. Was it 3 years? Anyway, there was a thing that I bought that went on the top of my ANET, and it was like another control board with a knob on it, and it had a whole load of sensors, and there was a smoke sensor, and there was a thermal runaway sensors on it, and it had a massive great MOSFETs on it, and basically it monitored my ANET, and if anything got too hot, the thermal runaway started or anything like that happened. What's my missus doing sending me a photo on Facebook at the moment? Can you believe it? Anyway, if any of those issues started, this little control board just shut the machine down. And I've not seen another one. I've not seen them for sale anywhere. I don't know whether they still exist, Pete. Do they still exist? The smart switch. Right. Yeah, that probably would have been it. And it had its own LCD display, and basically it had control of the power. So if it sent smoke or too much heat or anything like that, it just shut the power down to the ANET, which was all well and good, unless, of course, I was cooking bacon too close to it. And it shut down halfway through. I didn't do that. I wasn't cooking bacon next to it. I was just thinking. But yeah, that was an interesting thing, because I know there's still these things in the paper now about, and you see on Facebook and stuff about ANETs trying to burn down people's houses. And I wonder why that hasn't taken off, because it worked really well. In fact, when I gave my ANET away to my local scout group, and they were over the moon with it once they got their heads around it. And the unfortunate thing is now they keep asking me, what else should we get? So that's the thing. What else should they get? What do you suggest? As a scout group, there's probably 20 odd boys in it. It's a small village thing. There isn't a lot going on. But they've started printing with this ANET. And I mean, do I tell them CR10 or do I tell them an Ender 3? Do you think an Ender 3 would be better? I mean, at the price, ridiculous. Like I say, this, because I paid £4 because I paid for it by PayPal, it cost me £114 delivered. I mean, that is fairly mental. I'm sure I must have paid that for me ANET AA. And then I must have earned that in peeling that bloody paper off. Peter still can get them. They are, you see. What was it? Was it about 50 quid, Pete? the average user. Does that mean I was better than average? I don't think I was. I think what it was I bent your ear night after night after night trying to get it working, because it was a little confusing for a beginner. But once it was up and running, it was a fantastic kit. I'm sure they were about 50 quid, these smart switch things, but they were really good, really good. I don't, like I said, I don't understand why more people didn't buy them, because it meant you could go out and leave your A8 printing and still come back to a house. So what's 50 quid if you come back to a house? You know, it's a no-brainer in my book. So anyway, yeah, Scout Group, they're now getting heavily into 3D printing, because I'd got to the stage, I'd got my CR10, I'd ordered my Prusa i3 Mark III, and I didn't have room for 3 machines. So the ANET went. Now, you've heard what I just said. I didn't have room for 3 machines. I still haven't got room for 3 machines, but now I've got 3 machines. So I'm not going to get rid of one. I'll just have to rejiggle the room a bit or do something to fit them all in. Because this is only small. It's sweet. It's little. Find a corner for it somewhere. I mean, it might go sort of there on my desk, and then the old Prusa that's sat down there at the moment can go back up here, and I'll have one there, and then my CR10, which is over. You can't see. Hang on, let me just show you my horrible room and how dirty and disgusting it is. But over, you can just about see. Hang on, you can just about see if I move my light over. Oh no, you can't. But over there, oh, you can. Look, you can just see the horrible orange trim. That's where the CR10 is with the laser on it at the moment, because I'm playing with that because I think that's quite cool. So yeah, there we are. Basically, that's what comes in the box. It seems to be quite nicely packed. I'll have to give you the Mark III. Pete, I don't think so, mate. Do you really? No. Retail price. Oh my God. They retail around $39.99 plus postage. Well, if any of you out there, any of you 7, God, it's like speaking to the world. Any of you 7 have got an ANET, it's a worthwhile buy for 40 quid plus postage, if Pete can still get hold of them. It's peace of mind. That's the thing about it. It is peace of mind, because you can set the sensitivity. You can set like if I remember right, you can set a delay before it switches off. So if you get a whiff of smoke, it might just consider doing another test before it powers down. You know, it's infinitely tunable, let's say. But yeah, it meant I could go out, go shopping, go to the pub, and not worry about the fact that my printer was printing, which I do with, oh, Mr. Prusa down there, you're not having it, Peter. If you want a Prusa, you buy one. I don't know whether I told you, mate, I've actually also been a bit daft when it comes to Prusa. I've got my name down for the Mark II multi-material upgrade that he's just released. I've stuck my money in for that. Oh, another one. That's 8 people. That's fantastic. 8 people. That's more friends than I've ever had in my life. After the print stopped. Yes. No, that was quite cool as well. Yeah, that's something, because with that smart switch, because all the power for the printer ran through the smart switch, basically the power, it came out of your power supply for your ANET into this smart switch, and then out of this smart switch and back into your ANET. So everything was run through the switch. So the switch was in place before your heated bed, before your hot end, before your fans. So if there were any issues or anything, it could switch the power off. But like Pete says, it also knew when your printer finished, and when your printer finished, turned your printer off. You know, what other machines do that? Can anybody think of a machine that does that at the moment? You know, no, neither can I. But yeah, I've gone for the multi-material upgrade, Pete, the Mark II version, because it looks quite cool, and I thought, why not? It's 260 quid, I think. That should be here in August. Can you believe it? I'm actually believing Joseph Prusa when he tells me when something's going to turn up. But at the moment, yeah, they're reckoning August for that, and that will be interesting. That's just a whim, is that, you know, it's not for any particular reason. I'm not going to do anything specific with it. I just thought it looked a really cool bit of kit. And I had a bit of money floating about because I have a really nice boss. And he looks after me, bless him. So what better to do than to spend it on a big boy's toy, which is what we're all doing. Right, so where are we? Very nice. The Mark II version works with the NC. Really? Wow, I didn't know that. How cool. Yeah, you see, I might have... But the Mark II version didn't... Yeah, well, anyway. Yes, because it's got its own firmware as well, hasn't it? As the Mark II version. Yeah, sorry, Pete. Yeah, no, it should do. Because it's basically, it's a standalone thing. From what I understand of it, and I could have got this wrong, it's actually a standalone device. So it decides when it changes filament, and the printer just carries on its own sweet way. And that will sort out when it stops, when it changes, when it pauses. And they reckon it's going to be, there's going to be 5 or 6 different machines that in theory you will just be able to connect it to. And as long as Prusa's firmware sort of recognizes the machine you're going to put it on, it's going to work. So that's brilliant. Yeah, I mean, the fact that you're going to be able to swap it between machines would be a cool feature, although I think probably once I get it dialed into one machine I wouldn't want to change it. But no, we'll have to wait and see. So kind of running out of things to say. Yeah, you see, this is the thing, Pete. This is why I gave you the free advert, because I know I spend your money by telling you about all this cool stuff. You guys won't know, but Pete, for all his one thing or another, he has a lot of other things in life that he spends his money on, one of which is rusting outside his house at the moment. Or isn't rusting anymore because he's welded it up. But that's another story. Pete was aware that these existed. As far as I know, Peter was aware these existed. He didn't know how cheap they were. He didn't know how cool they were. He obviously hadn't done any research into them. And I was talking to him the other night. It could have even been last night. And I told him how cheap they were. And I think probably within a couple of hours he'd ordered one. But yeah, it sort of passed him by. And so he jumped on the bandwagon, and I know he's got at least one on the way, but like I say, knowing Pete, he'll have 2 or 3 on the way because they're cheap, and it means he can prat about with them. But he'll look into mods for them, and he will get them running to the best of their ability. And of course, you know, if you're selling mods for something, it's always good to have at least one to test them on. And if you've got 2 or 3 to test them on, you know, it's not just a freak of nature that it works on your machine and it might not work on anybody else's. So he does do lots of rigorous testing of all his stuff before he ships it out. He won't sell it if he doesn't think it works. So, yeah, I've been waffling now for 1 hour and 8 minutes. I don't know whether anybody's fallen asleep yet. Did you print the spool holder for the drying box? Yes. Oh, my goodness. Yes, now, this guy, I'm going to say his name wrong now, aren't I? Is it Jope? I'm saying Jope. Jope. I hope I've got that right, mate. On one of my other videos, I can't show you now at the moment, actually, because it's not to hand. One of my other videos, I have I found a way of keeping filament dry. And basically, it's big 25-litre tubs. Which are meant for fermenting purposes for brewing your own beer. And they have a sealed lid. And all you do is you buy silicon cat litter and you pour that into the bottom. And then I used these. They're disposable plastic shot glasses. And I sat 4 of those in the bottom of the bucket, like that. And then I sat my reels of filament on top, like that. And in the video, I just happened to mention that it would be nice if somebody would print some sort of holder for them. So it would the spool holder would sit in the bottom of the tub, and it had like a tube that came up so you could pick them all up, take them out, take the filament you wanted off, put it back in, put the lid back on. And within 12 hours, I would say, somebody had stuck one up on Thingiverse, attached my video to it, named me in it, and it was there. It was just fun. I mean, that's to me, that is what this community is all about, is the fact that somebody saw my video, and there aren't a lot of people that watch my videos, but saw my video and straight away, oh yeah, I can do that, Matt, no problem. Bang, designed the file. It was there. Like I say, within less than a day, I would say, it was sat on my machine printing. And yes, thanks, it worked really well. Am I going to upgrade the firmware? Well, on this, I did say at the beginning, I'm sorry if you missed it, I'm not upgrading the firmware at the moment. I guess you're talking about the unified firmware. Not at the moment. The reason for that is this has got a power off recovery feature on it at the moment. This is the standard firmware it comes with. If you lose power, it will recover when the power comes back on. Now, I watched a video on this, and what it doesn't do, if any of you know, with the Prusa Mark IIIs, if there's a power off, not only does it remember where the head is, but it also lifts it a little. So it's clear of whatever you're printing. And then when your power comes back on, it moves the head over to the side, reheats the bed, reheats the nozzle, and then continues the print. Now, the Creality one, from what I've seen on the video, it stays where it is, exact point where it is. And when the power comes on, it reheats at that point and then continues the print. But what you can do is, I'm led to believe, while it's reheating, the stepper motors are off. So you could actually physically move the head away from where it's printing, let it reheat, whack the nozzle, and then it will rehome to where it was, to its coordinates, and carry on. And that way, you won't have a mess of the print. But the unified firmware at the moment doesn't allow for that. So at the moment, I'm going to stick with the standard firmware, which means I won't be able to put my bed leveling sensor on because it won't be in there. But I will upgrade to the unified firmware when Creality release the source for the Ender 3, which I believe they're going to do. They've said they are going to do. And the guys at Marlin get hold of it, and they are able to have that feature in the unified firmware. I will then upgrade to that unified firmware, but I'm not going to do it before they've got that power off resume function, because to me, it's quite a big thing. I mean, I've got battery backup stuff down there. So in the old days, if the power went off at home, that would just kick in and it would carry on printing anyway. But it makes a noise and it hums and it's more electricity to keep it running. So that's what I'm going to do. No, that's fine, Trick Gaming. I'm glad you get where I'm coming from. I mean, I think it's a great idea. I mean, I've got all the stuff somewhere, which, if I remember rightly, I bought from Pete. I have all the stuff in one of my many drawers for actually flashing the firmware. I mean, I've got an Arduino in there, but I didn't use the Arduino. I used something else. Come on, Pete, what was it called? Because it was much easier. Much easier than messing about with an Arduino. It's up in this box up here. There it is. This little thing here. Does Pete tell me what it is, yeah? There you are. A USB ASP. What's he put there? So I'm trying to read Pete's. Does the Ender 3 have a bootloader? No, it doesn't, Pete. I have reason to believe that it is, because it's the old control board out the original CR10, like mine is the original CR10. It doesn't come with a bootloader, so we're going to have to bang that on there as well to start with. But I don't see that as being a major issue. This little device here we have here, which I'm holding very carefully. This is what came with my kit to put Pete's firmware on when I got my CR10 on my bed leveling stuff. So basically that goes into your PC, that plugs into there, and then this goes inside your control box and plugs into a port inside your control box. And then you can't really see any of this, can you? I'm talking to a darkened room, sorry. So that end there plugs inside your control box, and then you can upgrade the firmware and install a bootloader all in one quick flash, which doesn't take long. It's not rocket science. You're saving me loads of time. Really? Wow. God, you see, I should be on commission, shouldn't I? So yeah, basically, Pete will be doing kits, right? I am going to get into trouble for this because this is basically turning into a We Love Pete show, and it really isn't. Pete will be doing kits, and in your kit, you will get the USB ASP with this lead and that. You will be getting, I can't believe I'm doing this, you will be getting a sensor like this, which will, rather than having 3 wires on it like that, will have a plug on the end, which will go into your control box and will plug into your Z-axis stop end. Is that right, Pete? Is that where it'll be going? Anyway, and that's what you'll get in the kit. Plus, you'll also probably get, I'm going to embarrass him now, because he knows he printed that. You'll get one of those as well, which will be your CR10 mount, which will go on your hot end, and it will go on there like that. As you can see, that's printed to fit over there like that, and then that will sit into there, and that will be your bed leveling kit, and they will be on PC page by the end of the week. And you 10% of everything he makes, he will donate to my channel. No, I'm joking. But yeah, I mean, that's how I will do it when I come around to it, rather than using anything else, because it's worked for me once. In fact, it's worked for me twice, because I flashed the firmware 2 or 3 times now on the CR10. So I know it works and I know how to do it. So yeah, that's how I will be doing it, but not until the firmware has got that ability in it, because that's one of the reasons why I bought it. I thought, well, that's a cool little feature. You know, you don't have to spend 700-800 quid on Joseph's machine to be able to do it these days, which is brilliant, because it's really, when it comes down to it, all machines now that come to the market should have power resume function, auto bed leveling. What else? Well, I mean, a heated bed. I mean, there are still machines out there that haven't got heated beds, which to me is ridiculous in this day and age. To buy, I mean, even printing PLA, I think I would struggle printing some PLA things without having a heated bed. So I think every machine should have, as an absolute bare minimum, come to the market now, a heated bed, self-leveling, and power resume, because I think that is going to open it up to a much larger market of people who want to get into 3D printing. I mean, the other good thing about this, you should get a Patreon, Matt. I've got one, Pete. I haven't got anybody give me any money, but I do have a Patreon. If you care to look, if you click on my on my YouTube channel, you'll see I have got a Patreon, but I've never had a dime put in it. But you know, maybe one day. The other good thing I like about this, I digress, 24 volt. You know, that's a big step up, 24 volt. That means this bed is going to get hotter quicker, which means that time that you stand there staring at your printer waiting for it to start printing is going to half. The other thing is, I do believe somebody's opened the control box and there's no MOSFETs in it for the heated bed. Now, my understanding is the reason why there isn't one is because you've got twice the voltage. I don't know whether it's exactly half the ampage, but you need less amperage to heat the bed up. So because of that, there isn't the need for the MOSFET. Now, I've discussed with a couple of people about fitting one anyway, belt and braces. That might be something I do, just to be on the safe side. I mean, in fact, I've got one floating about somewhere. Lo and behold, MOSFET. That's a heated bed MOSFET. Do you know, I don't even know whether that's a 12 volt or a 24 volt or whether it makes a difference, because I'm not that technically minded, but I've got one there. I don't know whether I'll decide to fit that or not. I certainly did with the CR10. I fitted one, and then, you know, just to be on the safe side, I fitted a larger one, let's say, just to be on the safe side with them, because it looked a bit puny. But whether I will with this, I don't know. Trick gaming, yeah, auto leveling is a must, but it doesn't look too bad on the Ender 3 with those big knobs. Who misses? Can I ask you how you injured your arms? You don't mind asking, just in case it's 3D printer related? No, absolutely not. Every scar you see on me is unfortunately due to working very hard for a living. I do make no bones about that. Sometimes you'll see in my videos, you'll see muck under my fingernails. I haven't got nicely manicured hands. I do work with my hands for a living. Yesterday I was concreting. Today I've been doing all sorts of strange stuff today. But yeah, I work with my hands. Very physical job, very demanding job. But it means I can afford to do stuff like this. So yeah, don't worry, I haven't been chewed up by a heat bed or anything like that. It is just, you know, it's working for a living. You got to see it state of my t-shirt, they're full of holes. You know, it's hard life being me, but no shame in working hard. You're absolutely right, mate. Absolutely right. No, it's a means to an end, and I prefer to graft hard for a living than sit behind the desk all day. I don't think I could do that. I think I would go out of my mind. So yeah, no, it's hard work and getting on the wrong end of a spade every now and again. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't think I'm going to do a build video. I think there are enough out there, unless of course somebody wants me specifically to do a build video of it. My initial thoughts on the Ender, I think it is, well, it's typical Creality. At this stage, I can't tell you how it's going to perform because, well, it's still in bits. But it is typical Creality. It's 99% metal parts. There is the odd thing that they still need to change that they haven't done, like I mentioned earlier. I'll see if I can get a close-up of this that actually works this time. It's the common fault that brass screw for that threaded rod and where the filament goes in there is too close together. We all know it. We all know how close that filament gets to that rod. It's always been an issue. There are lots of things been designed to angle it away. But, you know, it's a minor thing. The build quality is always good. It always seems, you know, it's a solid thing. It's a happy middle ground between an A-net machine, which to me now seem a little bit archaic, let's say, quite old, because they use acrylic. I mean, there's no wonder they're catching fire if you're using acrylic. I mean, acrylic is fairly blooming, you know, flammable and quite toxic. You know, why they haven't moved into, you know, building more machines with metal frames. I mean, I know they did that, the CR10 copy. What was it? Was it called the A10? It was something like that. But anyway, it wasn't a good machine. This, to me, is a good middle ground machine between something like an A-net and before you get to a Prusa machine and you get to that sort of spending 700-800 quid on a machine. I mean, this, for 114 quid delivered, it's an absolute bargain. I'm not going to say it too loud in case Creality are listening, but they could sell it for twice that. You know, 220 quid, 230 quid machine. People wouldn't balk at paying that for this when you think what you've paid for your CR10s. So, yeah, for 120 quid, it was an absolute no-brainer. I thought you were like a farmer or something. Like a farmer or something. Cheers, Pete. Yes, I do like my Land Rovers. Again, that's something else that's greasy and falls to bits all the time. A bit like my printers. I have contacted Creality with an Ender3 issues video and asked them to try to fix them. They said they would look into it for the next orders, but it's hard to tell if they will actually fix anything. Well, the thing is, Trick Gaming, even if they don't fix anything, and I would hope that they would, at least they're talking to you. Just, if you see what I mean, at least, you know, you've got some comeback from them. They haven't just completely ignored your video and gone, who the hell do you think you are? You know, we're making billions of yen out of doing this. We couldn't give a monkeys. People keep buying them. At least they've got back to you and they've said, thanks very much. We'll look at it, and if it's viable, you know, we'll see what we can do. I mean, that's fairly good. I don't know many other companies in many other fields of, you know, life. I mean, I'm sure if you sent a video to a car company saying, I think you could do this and it would improve your car, how many car companies would turn around and go, oh, thanks very much? Not many. So big up to them for actually at least replying to you, thanking you and saying they'll look at it. If they don't do anything, they don't do anything. That's their loss, not yours, because the issues that you've found, I'm sure you're going to deal with. So it'll be right for you. So if they don't take it on board, that's their problem. But, you know, at least they've got back to you. At least they've touched base with you and said, thanks. You know, that to me, I think, is a great thing. Pete paid 144 quid for his. Yeah, well, you see, Pete, you weren't in early enough, were you? But, you know, you snooze, you lose, mate. But 144 quid, trust me, when you get it, mate, you'll be amazed for 144 quid what you've actually got your hands on. I agree. I used to deal with China with my e-cig business, so I like contacting China companies, and yes, they seem to want to do better. You paid more than that for your ANET. I can't remember what I paid for my ANET, Pete. I think it was around the 100 quid mark. But then I was fairly late to the ANET show. At least I thought I was fairly late to the ANET show. I honestly thought the AA was, like I say, a bit of a dinosaur. But I see they're still selling them. I see people are still buying them. And I don't understand how ANET are still selling A8s. I don't get it. I mean, how much are they now, ANET A8s? Anybody can just fly onto AliExpress or something and tell me how much they are. Are they still about 90 odd quid? Do I have any Delta printers? I haven't got a Delta printer. I have thought about getting one, but I don't know. I don't trust the design of them. Does that sound like a daft thing to say? But it's the fact that it's sort of spindly and it's sort of like that. It's a bit like a spider. And I just don't see how that's going to be particularly accurate. I mean, I might consider one. I mean, I was looking at resin printers the other day. Oh, I was sorely tempted. These resin printers, and I thought, oh, they look nice. But then it's the chemicals, and you've got to cure it, and you've got to wash it. And the thing with this is, you print it, you get your spatula, you go like that, you get it off your print bed. You might have to take some supports off. But 99% of the time, it comes out, it's something, you know. It works. You know, if I'd have done that on a resin machine, and cure it, you know, all the other malarkey that goes with it, UV rays, all that. So, thought about resin. Deltas, I think I might do. Is it me, or do they just seem a bit big as well? They seem to take up a lot of room, or is it just that the Deltas I've seen on YouTube channels are all about, you can't see because I can't get my hand high enough, but they all seem to be about sort of 4 or 5 foot tall. And it's like they're a bit sort of take over. I mean, the thing with this is when this is built, and we've got those extrusions up like that. I mean, look, that is no more than probably 2.5 foot. Yeah, it doesn't take over, does it? Whereas I think a Delta sort of does, unless I've completely got it wrong. I'm tempted to get a resin printer, but yes, the headaches that come with it are crazy. They are big. I've got an some QQ, and it's pretty decent. Worked out in the box. Well, like I say, I'm not dissing them because I've never had one, but there was one. I'm trying to think what it was on, where it was on GearBest or something a while ago, and there was a real cheap deal on one, and I very nearly pulled the trigger and bought it. Very nearly. And I talked myself out of it because, again, I didn't have room for another printer, which, I say it again, it just goes to show what a fantastic price I thought this was, because although I've got no room for it, I couldn't say no. Just couldn't stop myself from buying it. I thought, it's got to be done. So it was done. Hi from Belgium. Yay. 3D Gusner. Thanks very much for joining. You haven't missed much. I've just been waffling for the last hour and 31 minutes and tried to sell a load of stuff for Pete. But thanks very much for joining. My friend bought the little Monster TiVo and got a good deal on it and still can't get it to work. Do you know, I think that's what it was. I think it was the little Monster, and I think it was on GearBest, and it was a real good price. And like I say, I was really, really tempted to go and buy it. But yeah, it got the better of me, did the fact I had no room for it. I mean, if you actually looked around this room, you would think I've got loads of room. But at the time that deal was on, I wasn't where I am now. If you look back, when I finish waffling tonight, if you look back through my videos, you will see a very quick, crappy live stream I did a while ago of my makerspace that I'm in at the moment. Basically, I have moved, and this is actually an annex to a large farmhouse, which is possibly where Peter thought I was a farmer, which was for the staff, but they don't have any staff anymore, so it is now my makerspace. So it's actually got its own bedroom, its own bathroom, and this one big kitchen dining room, which is what is my makerspace at the moment. But I haven't got any tables. It's the biggest issue. I've got a fridge to keep the beer in, but I haven't got enough tables to put the printers on. But might go and do something about that this weekend. Have a moi, and it's not too bad. Moai, isn't it? Sorry, yeah. I'd like to see more cheaper printers have Z moving the bed. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I'll send you a link to some cheap tables that I have. Oh, cheers, Pete. Appreciate that, mate. Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, I mean, the thing is that the build cost of these printers these days must be absolutely minuscule. I mean, Creality must have so much of these bloody extrusion bars. I mean, I don't think what it looks like in their warehouse, but there must be lengths of these all over the shop. And yeah, I mean, the cost of these things is dropping massively. And if you can, even if you pay £144 for something like this, you must start to think that it's going to have to go the way of more features. Oh, cheers, Pete. You probably heard that just come up over the stream. Yeah, what I was saying was that the price has got to such a level now that even if this was 150 quid for everybody, the next incarnation, they might as well start putting more features on for the same money. Rather than trying to get machines cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, they would be better to get just more features on. And like I said, the three that are most important to me, I think that every machine should have, is auto bed leveling, auto resume function, and just tell you something else actually. Having said that, the heated bed was the other thing I was on about. I wouldn't mind them trying to go to a full-size SD card, because that is one little bugbear I have, is these little SD cards. I mean, it's not a massive issue. It just means you've either got to have a multi-card reader plugged into your PC, or you've got to have those adapters. And sometimes those adapters are cheap and they're nasty and they break and they cause you issues. I do use Raspberry Pi and Octoprim on my CR10. I haven't used it on my Prusa i3 Mark III, mainly because of the issues. I bought a Pi Zero to go inside that, but I stopped myself from putting it in because there were a few issues. In fact, I still think there are some issues with it, but I might do it externally. But Octoprim works really nicely for me. And all the plugins that are coming out now, I know Timothy Hoogland was on about it the other night. There's an awful lot of plugins for it now, which make it very helpful. You can do all sorts of cool things with Octoprim. But yeah, no, I kind of wish big SD cards, maybe. That would be one thing I'd look forward to in the future. Waiting for my Mark III upgrade kit. Ordered missing parts, motors, toothless pulleys. All right, cool. Good stuff. Yeah, I just went out and bought the Mark III. You know, it's like I say, I'm lucky. I don't earn a lot of money. I really don't. I'm not well paid at all, but I do enjoy my job. And once a year, my boss looks after me and looks after me really well, which means I get to buy myself some toys. And it's brilliant because it means that once a year I can go out and pick something up. And that's why I bought the Prusa, because it was something for me. You know, people buy cars, people do cars up, people do motorbikes up. I bought myself a 3D printer. Yeah, no, I agree with you. Absolutely. If you want the camera, Pi Zero is far too slow. Processing power is just not there. It's not worth it. But just for the actual, it's more the management side of the printing I was thinking about. But yeah, you're better off going for the Model B or the Model B Plus, aren't you, really? 650 euros. So what's that in British pounds? 650 euros. It's about 580 quid, something like that. You see, that's a lot. That's an awful lot. I mean, what did I pay for the printer? But I suppose if you've got, was it the Mark II S you had then that you're upgrading from, or was it just a straight Mark II? I'm guessing it was a straight Mark II. Resume function is quite SD card heavy, making it quite fast. Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. But according to what I've read about that, it doesn't do as much data swapping as they first thought. So it's not as likely to kill your machine as you think. Not your machine, sorry, your SD card. I have read it can be quite SD card heavy because it's doing lots of reads and writes, isn't it, and doing it fairly quickly. But I have reason to believe, I've read recently, that when they've actually looked into it, it's not reading and writing every movement. I think it's every line, or it's something like that. But it's not as bad as they first thought. But anyway, yeah, I know what you're saying about that. But let's be honest. How expensive are SD cards these days? They're not a lot of money, are they? They've come down a lot. And as long as you don't store your files on your SD card, as long as you only use your SD card for printing and you store your files somewhere else, whether it's on an external hard drive or whether it's on your main computer, you're not going to lose anything if your SD card knackers. So my suggestion is buy plenty of cheap SD cards, Not too cheap, because we know they'll fail anyway. But just don't store all your files on your SD cards. Make sure you keep them somewhere else, and then you transfer them to the SD card when you want to print them, and keep a copy of them. And then that way, you know, it won't be so much of an issue. Do you use Cura or Simplify 3D? What is your favorite software for slicing and creating? Creating is something I am absolutely shocking at. I nearly swore then. I stopped myself. I don't want to get a nasty mark from YouTube. As much as I'm a practical bloke and I can build walls and I can knock things down and I can concrete footings and, you know, I can set up Wi-Fi networks and stuff. When it comes to actually designing in 3D, it looks like a 7-year-old with a crayon. It's the honest answer. I am trying, but I'm not particularly good, I must admit. As for slicing software, I like Cura. I have used Cura quite a bit. I did get hold of Simplify 3D. I bit the bullet and got to Simplify 3D. I use Simplify 3D probably more than I do Cura now. But when I am printing on my Prusa, I use the Prusa software, because even though there are some good profiles out there for his machine on Simplify 3D, I still think his own version of Slicer is superior for actually printing using his machine. It's just good. I'm trying to think what else I've used. I've used most of them for a short time, but I've kind of stuck with Simplify 3D, and Chris Elkin's settings for Simplify 3D for the CR10 are absolutely fantastic. That guy, what that guy can do with Simplify 3D. I mean, I'm sure he's done them for Cura as well, hasn't he? I know they exist for Cura as well, but for Simplify 3D, his settings for the CR10 are fantastic. And I believe, again, this is only supposition and hearsay at the moment, because I've not built my machine yet, but I believe if you go into his profiles and you load them up onto this machine, as long as you change the bed size, everything else is going to be exactly the same, because this is basically a small original standard CR10. So, you know, before they went to you know, all the S's and everything else that changed, and the new boards, this is basically a small original CR10. So his profiles are going to print on this, and they're going to be blinking good, is what I will say, because his profiles are fantastic. I can't tell you enough how wonderful they are. If you haven't got his profiles and you've got CR10, or you've got this coming, find Chris Elkin's profiles. They'll be on most of the CR10 user groups on Facebook, generally in their file sections. And it's just, they're phenomenal. They work so well. I've never had a problem with them. ESP32 line blower with a battery connected to my Mark II. Nice alternative to autoprint if you don't need all the plugins. Yeah, no, if it's a lot more basic in it, but it works. But I like the plugins. There's one that came out the other week, which I've seen a few YouTube videos of, which is the camera capture. What's the word I'm looking for? Time lapse. That's the word I'm looking for. There's a new time lapse one out there, and if you see them, it's like it's growing, and you don't get any lack of focus. You don't get any blurred images. You don't even see the head move, and it looks like the head's parked at the side, and this, wherever you're printing, just appears at the print bed. And I just love the plugins. I think the plugins are brilliant. They've got a plugin on Octoprint which is far more accurate for your print times. I can't remember which one it is, but yeah, there you are. Look, bed mesh visualizer. Yeah, it's just, I love it. It's another one of those things, isn't it? It's like the 3D printing community. This Octoprint and this open source that Octoprint is the fact that all these people are writing these plugins for it, and it just how creative some people are. It blows my mind. It really does. I'm not particularly a creative person, all said and done. But yeah, no, some people, they're just how their brains work. It blows my mind. Right, hour and 45 minutes. 6 people still listening to me talk rubbish. Anything else you want to talk about while we're still here? Anything else you want to see? Do you want me to see me throw my Prush out the window? Because that ain't going to happen, kids. Anything else you want to know? I was going to fire the CR10 up with a laser on and give you a quick demonstration of that. But as much as the hardware side of it, I've got working an absolute treat. It works really well. The software side of it is a different matter, let's say. The issue with the software side of laser engraving on anything is there is no piece of software that works out of the box that does the job. Everything I've looked at, you've got to buy plugins. Well, not buy, but you've got to install plugins and patches, and you've got to wiggle this and twiggle that. And it's all a bit convoluted and all a bit difficult at the moment. It is going to get better. I'm sure there will eventually be a piece of software that will just load up and away you go. But I'm struggling with the software side of it. The hardware side of it, I've got working a treat, and I'm burning some wood till it sets me fire alarms off. But yeah, we'll get into that another day. I was going to do a video the other day on it, but I will do one. I'll show you. There's a couple of attachments on it. There's a couple of things on Thingiverse which mean I can mount and unmount my bed leveling sensor and take my bed leveling sensor off and put my laser on, and it just slots in, and it's gorgeous and it works really well. But yeah, it's just the software side of it is a ball ache. You want to see me put the bloody thing together? No, you don't, Pete, because that just means it'll make you putting yours together next week when it turns up easier, and I'm not giving you the benefit of that, mate. You're going to have to struggle. How many printers do I have? I now have 3. So I have the basic CR10 with the dual Z upgrade, which I can't remember where I bought that from. Pete, can you remember where I got that upgrade from? I've got my Prush i3 Mark III, and now I've got my Ender 3. I had an ANET A8, but I got rid of it, gave that to the Scout group, and I'm running out of space. But Pete's just showed me where there's some cheap tables, so you never know if something else comes onto the market that's cheap. I might go for a Delta. You might have talked me into a Delta. So else, dude. How's the filament dryer working? The filament dryer is working really well. Absolutely no issues with it all. Unfortunately, I can't get to it now to show you them. But yeah, no, it's worked out really well. The holder for the spools has printed really well as well. That wonderful gentleman designed for me. So yeah, it's working, and it's cheap. It cost me a tenner each for those filament, the fermentation bins, and it cost me about £4, I think, for the cat litter. Just make sure you get the pure silicon cat litter, not anything that's got clay in it or anything like that, because it's far too dusty and that will cause you all sorts of issues. But no, that cat litter works a treat. I do have reason to believe that what you can do with it is that once it gets a load of moisture into it, I'm going to be able to take it out, put it into a baking tray, put it in the oven, and that will dry out the cat litter, and then I can put it back in again. But to be honest with you, at the £4 I paid for the bag of cat litter, I'm probably more inclined just to chuck it out and buy another bag for the sake of £4. How's the dust? You may need a dust cleaner. There wasn't a lot. I'll be honest with you, I was quite careful when I poured it in to make sure that I didn't get a massive great cloud of dust, and it settled fairly. What little dust there was settled fairly well. And then, of course, the dust had settled before I put the spools in. So the theory is it shouldn't have picked up too much dust. If I start having an issue with dust, yeah, I'll certainly look at dust cleaners. I mean, I know there's loads of little ones on Thingiverse, aren't there, that you put bits of sponge in and stuff, and I might look at one of those. And if I do, I will probably do a video on it, because I don't have a lot of stuff to do content on, because unfortunately, I haven't got the buying power of some of the big boys to go out and buy all the latest stuff. So yeah, I have to try and come up with things off the top of my head to talk about and do stuff about, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I am just amazed. I've got to say this. I've got to thank you guys, because I am absolutely amazed that I've had a live stream. This is my first proper live stream ever, and I think I maxed out at 7 people watching me. But I've been on for an hour and 50 odd minutes now, and to know that there are 5 people out there that are willing to listen to me is amazing, and I appreciate it. I appreciate it no end that you've taken the time to come in and listen and put up with me. We love you, brother. Oh, bless you. To put up with my ramblings and goings on. I mean, I've always said that I'll never try to be something I'm not when it comes to this sort of thing. I'm no expert. I'm no technical guru at all. I'm an average Joe, just like everybody else, who enjoys 3D printing, enjoys putting the things together, enjoys having fun with them. And I just want to share it with people. And if I can do something that people see and they go, oh, that's a good idea, or oh, that's, you know, I won't do that because that was stupid. Well, my job's done. And I just like sharing it with people. And I appreciate the fact that you took the time to watch me. I've just turned on notifications because I nearly missed it. Love a strong word, but you're okay, Matt. Love is a strong word. Get off your puff. Sorry, I must stop drinking. So yeah, I reckon I'm about there for tonight. I haven't really got anything else I want to talk about, and you guys seem to be fairly happy. If you do have any ideas for anything you would like me to do in the future, please put it in the comments. Send me a tweet. Send me a message on YouTube. Find me on Facebook. I'm about on Facebook in different places, in different groups. And yeah, let me know, because I do struggle for content, because I do tend to find if I'm not careful, all I'm doing is copying everybody else, which is why I haven't built this. Because my intention was, when I ordered it, when I got this wonderful pre-order, yeah, we all know the story behind that, but when I got this wonderful pre-order, my intention was to be one of the first people in the UK to have one, and that I would be able to do this build, and everybody would see me be one of the first person to build one. Well, of course, that didn't work, did it? And now there are 8, 9, 10 YouTube videos of people building this. So you don't need another one, do you? Certainly not me. So I've desisted from doing that. Like I say, if somebody wants a build video, I might consider doing it. It won't be a live stream, because then I am forced to finish it. And I might not feel that way inclined. I might start it and then go and have a break and then come back to it. But if somebody would like me to film me putting it together, I'll certainly consider it and stick it out there. Bloody Hellman, copy away. I'd rather watch a normal person building printers than the alternative, whose name we will not mention. Yeah, all right, Pete. But not everybody is like you, mate. Not everybody wants a boring old fart with long hair, a beard, and cuts to his hands and his holes in his shirt, and God knows what else. Some people like the polished video, you know, the flash graphics and everything else. You know, I'm just that little bit different, Anna, I suppose. Live stream build of the Ender would be great. I'll consider it. Yeah. Well, I tell you honestly, Gusner, I hope I'm saying your name right. I was in the process. In fact, I think you might find if you check my channel out, I started to video my live build of my Mark III. But I had major camera issues and I lost a shed load of footage. I must have lost about 3 hours worth of footage, and it kind of put me off, to put it mildly. I had watched 3D Maker Noob because I like him. I've got to say I do like him. He's a nice bloke. He always talks to me when I'm on his live streams and stuff. He's a lovely guy. I watched his live build. What I didn't appreciate was when I watched his live build that he'd built umpteen bloody Prussias before. I've sworn now. Bloody hell. I've sworn again. He'd built umpteen Prussias before and he made it look incredibly easy. And so I thought, yeah, no, it's fine. I'll do one, no problem. And it wasn't exactly that easy. And it took me an awful lot longer than it seemed to take him. But yeah, it's a learning curve. You're not as old as me, Pete. It's a learning curve, and I certainly wouldn't attempt to do a live build video of something of that stature again. I might well do that with this. We'll have to wait and see. You have to see if you can talk me into it. Because at the moment, I think I might video it, but whether it'll be a live build or not, I don't know. We'll see if I get some time. You went to bed and woke up and he was still doing it. You know, I can't imagine. I mean, if he's been doing it for that long, I think you're going to find that he was probably making mistakes because he was overtired. If he's been hammering at it for 24 hours straight trying to put the damn thing together, he's lucky he got the gantry on the right way up. Live streams longer than 4 hours are quite often clutter. Just stop after 4 hours and start a new one. But surely the last 2 hours have just been clutter. Does that mean I've now got to do 2 hours of something like really intense and right? Because all I've been doing really is waffling. We haven't really looked at the machine much, have we? I mean, I got it out of the box and I waved a few bits in your face. The rest of the time, I've just been talking to you. But that's what I like. You know, it's not all about the build. It's not all about how technically brilliant I am or how technically brilliant it is. Sometimes it's just about sitting with like-minded people who enjoy the same things and, you know, having a chat and chewing the cud and trying to put the worlds to rights. Or at least trying to put my printer to rights. He was a real noob and asked for help, and lots of people helped him. Love the community. No, absolutely. Absolutely. That is what it is all about. So we're coming up to 2 hours. That's a good time to stop, I think. What did you think about the master spool? Do you know, I think the jury's out. Personally. Sorry, Richard, I've just read Trick Gaming's comment and it's just sort of thrown me a bit. Master spool. Yeah, jury's out on that. I haven't made my mind up. I really haven't. I've got to sort of. I don't know enough yet to make a ruling on what I think about it. What do you think, Richard? You tell me what you think. Trick Gaming, yeah. Yeah, you do get more filament, but oh yeah, here we go. It's Pete having private conversations in my chat now. Yes, you do get more filament, but if it's you know, it's the weight, isn't it? Is that not going to be an issue if you've got spool holders that are on your gantry or something like that? Is that not going to become a problem? Oh God, yeah. No, anyway. Yeah, Trick Gaming, how far away are you? Do I have to get a bus? I'm not building your machine for you. I have no trouble building my own. All right, mate, you take care. New York. Oh, bloody hell. I won't be coming this weekend, mate. I'm sorry. Yeah, have a great time, mate. You enjoy yourself, and I'll see you in the next video. Pete, will you stop doing... Oh, my God. Yeah. Cheers, Trick. Take care, mate. Pete, behave yourself. Wow. Really? Saving 150, 200 grams for the spoon. Oh, well, that's... So I suppose what you save that way, you can have more filament, can't you? Unbelievable. Unbelievable, Pete. I'm going to shut this down now because I'm not having this turning in to the Pete Robinson Roadshow. Thanks very much, everybody, for tuning in. I do appreciate it. If you aren't a subscriber, please do subscribe. If you liked what I do, thumbs up. I see I've got 5 thumbs up, so that's 5 people here, 5 thumbs up. That's cool. Yeah, subscribe so you know when I'm doing more silly rubbish like this. And as Pete mentioned, yes, I do have a Patreon. If anybody feels they've got £1, I'm not going to say $1 or $1 because I'm not blinking American. If anybody feels they've got £1 burning a hole in their pocket, which would help to pay for my 60 quid a month mobile broadband, which is what I'm using at the moment because I've got no landline to where I am, or to help me pay for beer while I'm doing my live streams, or some nice new lights so you can actually see things, or maybe a camera that doesn't look like it's got Vaseline over the lens, I'd be very appreciative, but I'm not begging because I'll just carry on doing what I do with what I've got. Because you clearly like it and you wouldn't want me to change anyway. Richard's girlfriend, I am terribly sorry you've had to put up with me. I mean, I'm sure Richard himself is probably enough to put up with, but having to put up with me as well on a Thursday night can't be a good thing. All right, guys, thanks so much. Like I say, like, comment, subscribe. See you in the next one. Hit me up on Twitter, Facebook, whatever, if you want to chat or you want any help with anything, and I'll do everything I can. And Pete, stop stealing my feeds. Right, with that, I'm going to end the stream. Good night, everyone.